Hello, and welcome to this brief tutorial, which is intended for the purpose of just quickly going over some very basic tools in Adobe Illustrator, which we have already done together in class, but for the purposes of having something that you are able to go back to for your reference. That is the intention of this demonstration. So I am sharing my screen, and if you notice, I am in the Adobe Illustrator program. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just go ahead and create a new file. I will just go ahead and select letter size. Typically, you are going to either be working with letter or A4. A4 is kind of the standard poster size, whereas letter is the 8.5 by 11. So I will just go ahead and say create. For all intensive purposes, you would have told Illustrator, obviously, where to save your file and what it would be named. However, again, this is just a demonstration, so I did not indicate that. So the first thing that you're going to want to do whenever you open or create a new file, you'll notice that it's totally blank. The first thing that you should do is come over here to the window drop-down menu, and what we first want to do, you will probably be automatically set to your basic toolbar, which if I go ahead and switch back to basic, you'll notice over here on the left-hand side of the screen, I have one line of tools. If I go ahead back to window, drop down and turn on the advanced toolbar, you will notice that I now have two rows of tools. So that is the first thing that you are going to want to do. We are just going to go over some very basic tools again for the purpose of this first demonstration and or project in which we are using Adobe Illustrator. And those tools that we are going to be looking at or working with, your selection tool is very important. We will be looking at the pen tool. We will be looking at the type tool. We will be looking at this tool, which is the shape tool. And we will also be looking at the paintbrush tool. So, and maybe a little bit of the line segment tool. So the first thing that I want to reiterate here as we are looking at the toolbar is you will notice some of these icons, most of them actually have this little triangular shape in the bottom right-hand corner. You will also notice, as I was just doing, if you hover over any tool with your mouse, it will tell you what tool is selected or what tool you are hovering over. But going back to that little triangular shape in the bottom of specific icons. Now, so as mentioned, if I hover over, it tells me the name of the tool. Now, if I click down and hold, I get a flyout menu, which presents me with the various different types of whatever tool it is that you are selecting. So I currently right now am looking at the type tool. And within that type tool, we have various different types of type tool. We have the type tool, the area type tool, type on a path tool, vertical type tool, vertical area type tool, vertical type on a path tool, and touch type tool. So just very quickly, I will demonstrate here. If I click and hold down on the shapes tool, we have the rectangle tool, rounded rectangle tool, ellipse tool, and so forth. So all of those icons that have the little triangular shape in the bottom right-hand corner, that indicates that there are different types of that specific tool. So the first thing that I guess we will go ahead and briefly review is the type tool. So this is how you will create and incorporate any type of text or typography within an Illustrator file. So I will just go ahead and click on the very basic type tool. And before I actually start working in this file, this is just personal preference that I like to do is to go ahead and turn on my rollers, and usually I'll even create guides for myself, which is an easy way to sort of create a border in which you are housing all of your elements inside to make sure that it's just a clean sort of outline. So the way that you can have your rulers be displayed is going to Window, and the Window menu basically is where you can designate what you are seeing, essentially. So we are looking for our rulers, or actually, yeah, it's under View. So scratch that, don't click on Window, click on View and drop down, and you can go to Rulers and Show Rulers. And if you notice here now, I have rulers on both my X and Y axis, vertically and horizontally. So the next thing that I'm going to do is create some guides for myself. I usually will just kind of, my personal workflow, I create about 1/2 inch margins on all sides of my files. And so you can create new guides by hovering your mouse over the ruler, clicking down and dragging. And if you notice, I have this line that appears, and now I have we'll just make them 1 inch margins for the sake of this demonstration. And I'm presented with these teal lines in which I have designated I will be working within this space, and that will serve as my sort of outline to my piece. So let's go ahead and go back to the text tool or the type tool. So again, just working with the very first, what I'll do is just go ahead and create a new text box by clicking and dragging. And you see that it fills automatically with the generic lorem ipsum text, which I'm going to go ahead and delete. So once I am in my text box and I've created my text box, what you'll notice over here in the right-hand side of your screen is your properties panel. Now, for every tool that you use in Illustrator, you are able to adjust the properties of such. So this is where you can basically personalize anything that you create. So again, we are working with text or type in this particular instance. So over here, you'll notice you can have the options to transform, adjust its appearance. The character designates what type of font it is. As in the same with Microsoft Word or any other text document, you can adjust its orientation in the space or paragraph, align, and so forth. So again, this is a brief demonstration in that I went over all of this in class, but here we will go ahead and drop down. So the first thing that I want to show you and remind you is, let me just move that out of the way. If you scroll all the way down here to the bottom of your available fonts, you can click on Find More Fonts. And I have already done this, but if you are doing this for the first time, it will take a couple seconds to load, but it will present to you thousands of different types and texts that are available for you through Adobe Illustrator. So we will just, let's go ahead and click something like this. And the way that you can download these fonts is hovering over this little cloud icon. And if you hover, you'll notice it says activate. So let's say I like this font, let's click on it. And there are 11 different fonts within this type of typeface. So I'm gonna click OK. And I'm gonna click out of here. I am going to go back to my generic text box selection, and I am going to hopefully locate the one that I just downloaded, which, yes, here it is. Brim narrow is the text that I wanted to use. So let's say I like this one. And you'll notice again that there are 11 different types of this text. So when we talk about remaining consistent with the typography and color palettes that we are choosing to use in our works, that is a very easy way to do so. So I have my text selected. I know this is going to need to be bigger. Let's just go ahead and set it to a 50-point font. Click OK and click back into our text box and just start typing. There you have it. There is your text. Let's say I want to center justify it. So you would come over here and you would click Align Center, just as you would, again, in any word processing document. So if I want to change the color of this text, I can simply highlight it. I can click on either fill and or stroke. Let's see what either of them does. If I click on red, it looks like that. Let's say I don't want it, or let's turn it back to black. And let's say if we want the stroke is essentially the outline. And so it can look like that. Just to show you the difference, I'm going to copy. And I did that using the keyboard shortcut Command C on a Mac, and on a PC that would be Control C. You can also do so by highlighting whatever it is you want to copy and going to Edit, Copy, clicking out of that box, Edit, Paste, or I could have done Command V for the keyboard shortcut for paste on a Mac computer, or Control V on a PC. So one thing I do want to point out is as I hover over this, you will notice that my cursor is the text icon. I don't want that tool. I need my selection tool to pick this up and move it. So that is why your selection tool is very important as you're working in Illustrator. You need to have your selection tool selected as a means of moving things around. So your selection tool is right here. It is the top left icon. The keyboard shortcut for it is V. So I'll just click V on my keyboard, and now you will see I am able to move this around. So to go back to my text or type tool, I can use the keyboard shortcut T. And this allows me to begin, again, working with this particular text. So just to show you the difference of what these two things look like when you are controlling the stroke and or fill of either or, you can get completely different results. And so as mentioned, there are 11 different types of this font, which is a lot. And so there's a lot that you can do even just with working with a singular typeface. So this one is a little bit more narrow in that it's a different variation. So that is working just very easily and simply with the type tool. You can experiment with these different types of type tools as I have demonstrated. Again, the vertical type tool allows you to type vertically. The type on a path tool would allow you to type on any path that you have created. Same with vertical type on a path tool, and so forth. So those can be something that you experiment with on your own time, as again, they are something that I went over with you in class, and this is again just to serve as a sort of reminder of those things we looked at together. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this, which I can do either by clicking on the delete key on my keyboard with it selected. Again, I went back to my selection tool, I clicked here, you can see this blue box has formed around my object, and I can either click delete, or something that we discussed and I would like to reiterate at this time is similarly to Photoshop, Illustrator utilizes a layers system. So if we come over here to the right hand of the screen and we go ahead and click on layers and drop down this, we can see everything that I have created within this singular file. So another way to delete is by accessing your objects here in your layers panel. So I can click on this and I could use the delete key, or I can come down here to my trash can icon and click on that, and you'll notice it went away here in my file, and it also disappeared here within my layers. So something also to mention is that layers work in a hierarchy. So if you can imagine things being stacked on one another, stacked on top of each other, that is how layers work. And so if you have a background that you want to be underneath everything else, it needs to be at the bottom. If it is on the top of everything else, it will cover everything else. Nothing else will be visible. So you need to remember that and rearrange your layers within your files accordingly to how you would like them to be viewed. Moving on to the next tool that we will quickly look at. This is your line segment tool. So I will go ahead and change the color of it for the purpose of this so we can see it. Let's say I want to show a border within my file, and I want to use these guides. Something to note is that holding the shift key down, whether you are drawing a line or creating a shape, will ensure that that line either be perfectly straight or that shape be perfectly proportionate. So it will create a perfect circle or a perfect square or a completely straight line. So I will hold down my shift key and I will go ahead and drag here and click. Or maybe I have to do it not on the line. Oh, there, you see it. It just doesn't have that thick of a stroke. I came over here to increase the size of the stroke, but that is, and I changed the color, let's change it to blue. If I click off of that, we can see the line here. And if I bring it back down here, there it is on my border. You can click your guides off and on at any point in time with the keyboard shortcut Command and the colon or semicolon key. So there is my line. Very easy. We can use this, say I wanted it to serve as the purpose of separating this text right here. There we go. So that is very quickly a review of the line segment tool. You can click and drag and create any variation of lines for a design. So the other thing that I briefly will mention right now, because I have created all these different lines, say I want to select them all, but I don't want to select everything within this file, just this variation of lines that I have made right here. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my selection key, which again is done through the V key. So V, and you see my cursor changes back to this arrow. I can select all of these things by clicking and dragging a box around them. So now you notice this blue box has formed, and it actually automatically selected this text, which I do not want to be included. So I will hold down my shift key and click on the text. And now you see it has deselected the text, and the only thing that's selected is this group of lines. Now they're all selected together. I can click and move them around. I have the capability of adjusting their proportions and or scale by clicking and dragging. Again, as with anything else in Illustrator, if you want them to maintain their proportions, you must hold down the shift key, in which I can no longer make them more wide or tall than they were before I held the shift key. But if I don't hold the shift key, I can skew them so that they transform into an entirely different shape. You also have the capability of rotating anything as an object within Illustrator, and you do so by hovering here at the corner of any object and clicking and dragging. Let's say this is something that I wanted to have multiples of. Just as with anything else, Command or Control C or Edit, copy, and then Edit, paste. And here we have the same thing repeated. Now let's say I want several of them. It's already copied to my clipboard, and so we just continue to paste. Now, let's say I don't want these things here anymore. It's going to be a lot more difficult for you to delete them here within the layers panel because it is reading it as one line. So we'll just go ahead and select on all of this. And again, it's selected this text, which I do not want. So I will click Shift and click on the text. And, or let's just say we want to scale this down. And move it so we can work on something else. Okay, so the next thing that we will briefly go over is the shape tool. And, you know, again, every object that we are working with can be adjusted through the adjustment of their properties. So I will demonstrate, you know, drawing a rectangle can simply be done by clicking and dragging. As mentioned, if we hold down the Shift key or let go, this is holding down, this is letting go. Holding down turns it into a perfect square. Letting go, I can make whatever proportioned, quote unquote, rectangle that I want. Let's say I want this rectangle to be filled in a color. I come over to the properties panel and I click on fill. I click on my color. To get any color, you can click here and you can drag through and make your selection. Say I want a more pink or purple. There we go. Let's say I don't want it to have any border or outline. I can come down here and turn the stroke down to 0. If I turn on my selection key and click away, this no longer has a border. The other thing that I can do in my properties panel very easily is I can turn down the opacity of this rectangle to be about 50%. Let's just go back here and say we want it to sort of more closely align with the black and red color palette. And let's turn it back to red, but you will notice it is at a 50% opacity, so it's not as vibrant of a red. Let's say I wanted to make a design just using the shapes tool. So I can come over here and just very freehand draw some little graphics. That one. And okay, and I can, you know, adjust the opacity of all of these and make some of them lighter or darker, and just kind of playing around with what I can do just within these tools. Again, I am clicking on each individual box and adjusting them that way. So, oops. To undo anything, you can Command Z or you can Edit, Undo. Let's say I just want to select all these boxes and I want to copy them. Again, Command C, click out, Command V, and here they are. Let's say I want to scale these down and have them exist here, and then I want to paste them some more and scale these down even more to just kind of create this repetitive pattern, and paste one more time and make a very small version to finish out. So that's a very, very easy way to work with shapes and kind of make an interesting and very easy graphic or design. You can do what I just did and much more using, adjusting the properties of each different shape. So again, you have a rounded rectangle tool, an ellipse tool, polygon star, and the flare tool is a little bit different. So the last thing that I will go over is the paintbrush tool. And so I'm just going to demonstrate the regular paintbrush tool. We'll go over here and let's say I want to switch to the black color, and we'll make my stroke 2. You can increase and decrease the brush size using the squared off parentheses keys on your keyboard. So the keys that are to the right of the P, the letter P key, again, it's a squared off parentheses. So if I click on the right or end parentheses, if you can notice, my brush is getting very big, and if I draw, it has a very wide or thick stroke. I'm going to undo that, and if I use the beginning parentheses or the left squared off parentheses and make a smaller brush, it has a lesser thickness. So I am going to go ahead and undo those. And for the purposes of this demonstration, I would like to very quickly show how you can easily sort of use this tool in tracing any pre-existing image to make a rough or sort of what is referred to in art as a sort of like contour or cartoon outline or drawing. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up a image that I have already saved to my computer. It's this hand image. And as I click on this, it opens it within Illustrator as a separate file. So you notice here is the image I just opened. And if I click over here, this is the file that we're working on. So what I'm going to do here is with my selection tool, I am going to simply copy and paste this. So I will Command C or Edit. I think I need to have it selected. So click on your image, edit, copy, go over to your other file, edit, paste, and it's right here. I will bring it over here for us to work with. And what I'm going to do to this image so that I can work on it is turn down the opacity just so I can kind of see what I'm doing. Maybe not that low because I still need to be able to see the image to trace it. The 85, okay, that's good. To zoom in and out of any file, by the way, you can Command plus or Command minus if you are on a Mac. I believe it would be Control plus or Control minus on a PC, so I will demonstrate that now. Command plus, I am zooming in. Command minus, I am zooming out. You can also access that over here in the bottom left-hand corner of the Adobe Illustrator application. We can zoom in this way by selecting, however zoomed in you want to be. So we will just work with this right now. This looks good for the purposes of what I would like to do, which is to very roughly and quickly, using the technique of contour drawing or contour outline, I am going to outline this hand. So again, with the paintbrush tool selected, which you can also do by clicking on B on your keyboard, I would like to outline this in red. And so This is, again, for all intensive purposes, meant to be a very rough outline, and just to show you how you can get a rough sketch of a cartoon. So I'm going to start up here and just go around this finger. Let's go up, and I am, again, just clicking down and holding as I make my shapes, or I'm sorry, my lines. Come down here. Again, this is not intended to be perfect. And if you would like for it to be, you can obviously spend more time on it. But again, for the purposes of this demonstration, in which I am simply trying to show you the brush tool, I apologize if I'm trailing off. I am kind of focusing on this drawing, which again is meant to be very rough and simply show the gesture of this hand. And so this can be achieved through very rough outlines of, you know, whatever it is that you are outlining. So I will go ahead and say, maybe I want to do the fingernails just for a little added detail. Go ahead and zoom out, and what I'm going to do now is go back to my selection tool, and I do that by clicking on V, click on the image, and I'm going to turn the opacity all the way down. Okay, so now what we are left with is this outline of our hand. I will zoom in and show you. Again, very rough, but this is how you can do very easy or simple contour cartoon drawings of anything. You obviously can go in with different colors, different sizes of your brush tool, again, by using the squared off parenthesis keys. But yeah, you can bring in any image through the internet, or, you know, images that you've taken, and if you want to trace anything or sort of recreate a blind, it's referred to as like a blind contour drawing, in which this sort of rough outline or sketch around an image is traced. So we can copy this again if we want, which may be a little bit difficult with all of these other things going on in the background, but one way that I could do that is by coming over here to my layers and selecting all of these, Command C and Command V. Oh, for some reason it copied the image. Oh, it's because I still have the image on here, but it is, I have reduced the opacity entirely. So I think that is probably the image that we do not want. Another way, as mentioned, that you can do this would be dragging around all of your shapes, but then as mentioned, you have all of these selected within the background. So those are the very basic tools. Again, you can draw freehand with the brush tool. Anything that you can create, you know, any sort of freehand design, if that's what you're into. But you can also use the brush tool to outline any pre-existing image or content. And that is kind of a very basic introduction of drawing using Illustrator and the brush tool. So again, to reiterate, today we have gone over the selection tool, the type tool, the line segment tool, the shape tool, and the brush tool. Additionally, I will go over the pen tool just very quickly right now, as I kind of overlooked it. And this is how you can create any path or shape. So I click once, we'll zoom in a little bit, and it puts what is called an anchor point. I can then click again, click down, click down, click down, click down, click down, and this will not close or create a shape until you come back to the anchor point. Now, this is quote unquote a generic shape that I have made, and let's say we want to fill it with red. We can come back and adjust this shape by going back to our selection tool. Again, you can kind of skew it or transform it just as you can with anything else in Illustrator. Again, if I hold down Shift, it will only allow this to grow or shrink as long as it maintains its original proportions. So original or not generic shapes can be used or created using the pen tool, and that is through the creation of paths. And so something like the type on a path tool can be done, let's say, if you can see as I hover over this, any path, we could type on here, in which it just fills generically with or, you know, I just typed into that. And so that's how you can type on a path. Again, these are things that you can experiment within each tool. Again, we have used or looked at the selection tool, the pen tool, the type tool, the line segment tool, the shape tool, and the brush tool. Again, everything that you create can be adjusted over here in your properties panel. Once you are done with whatever it is you're working on, or if you're not done, you're always going to want to go to File, Save As, and of course you tell it where to save, you tell it what to save as. If it is not a final version, and even if it is, you always want to save an Illustrator copy, but for the purposes of submitting for class, you are going to want to save as a PDF, because otherwise I will not be able to open it. And so you simply drop down here to your format selection and tell it to save as a PDF. So those are looking at the very basic or an introduction to the tools in Adobe Illustrator. And even with those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 tools alone, there is so much that can be done and created. And so I encourage you guys to really spend some time experimenting with the different tools that are housed inside of or within each tool, and the different possibilities that you can do even with just shapes alone, or text through the adjustment of each object's properties. Okay, that's all.